Really, really, really.
Hello, welcome everybody.
Greetings.
Welcome to Here to Help You. Today is Hallows Eve.
Yes,
Is that what they say? The Hallows Eve?
Or All Saints Day, or All Saints Eve.
All Saints Eve?
Yeah.
So my student today asked me to dress up. I was like, ugh.
Why?
Yeah, why? But, she was like, no, Simone, I want to see you dress up as something. So this is the thing. I'm putting this out to all of our viewers. They have to guess who I'm dressed up as today.
That's going to be a
so please,
I know.
This is a little tough. You have to, this is almost
decision.
Like, you have to know me to understand why I'm dressed like this and why the mask, right? But it's very significant. It kind of works in, with the whole Hallows Eve. So welcome everyone to Here to Help You. I would like to introduce to you my co-host, the Don. You look very Afrocentric. Who are you supposed to be?
Me.
African man?
I am already an African man. 365 days of the year.
Super African man today?
Yes, definitely super African man.
So I'd like to introduce Super African man.
Thank you.
The Don, yes. Dave Rankin.
Longside.
Pause.
Longside.
Pause. You don't know who I am.
Longside.
You cannot give it away.
Hold on, man. I'm not giving nothing away, but you have to allow a man to speak.
Sorry.
No problem.
Go on.
Longside the masked Simone Jennifer Smith.
That's right. And again, comments, call in. Tell me who you think I am.
Please do.
Okay, so today, now we've gotten, actually, we're going to, you know what, it's funny. So I always ask Dave for show ideas. And Dave has a tendency to, as brilliant as he is, not want to use his brain sometimes.
Really?
Sorry, I have to call you out. So today, of course, he's like, we're sitting here saying, what are we going to discuss today? What do we want to talk about today? And I had this idea. So today he's like, oh, we should have done the history of Halloween. Oh, so you tell me this 20 minutes before the show.
Really? 20
okay, it was
minutes?
like 3 hours before the show. I'm exaggerating a little bit.
Major exaggeration.
So I thought that would have been an excellent idea. But you know what? We're talking about something that's, does matter to everybody. And it doesn't matter if it's Halloween, Christmas. It's something that's important to us as human beings.
Right.
So today we're talking about human rights, everybody. Yeah, human rights on Halloween.
Imagine that, huh?
I like it.
Human rights on Halloween.
Human rights on Halloween.
Yes.
Run that, Simone.
Of course, the day when a lot of people's rights are definitely violated for horror purposes, right?
For horror purposes.
Uh-huh.
But guess what? One thing definitely, there's no cultural appropriation happening here today.
That's right.
See that?
Only celebration.
Only celebration. So let's jump into some of this stuff because we have a lot to cover.
Cool.
Today, we decided to talk about this because we have most recently got involved with more. Well, we've always been involved in the human rights aspect. Wouldn't you agree?
Especially for advocating for our students.
Yes.
Right.
Definitely advocating for them because a lot of the students that we work with the families are new to the country.
Yes.
So sometimes they do need us to step in.
That's right.
For them. So we've already been doing this, but I think now we wanted to go a little bit more in depth to really look at what's happening with the human rights of everybody, regardless of race, culture, creed, religion. Agreed?
Agreed.
So we are going to go over a lot today. It is going to be very meaty, but I do think that this is something that will be helpful for everybody. We as humans, we need to know our rights. A lot of us don't know our rights, and this is why we get taken advantage of.
Yes.
Or things happen to us and we don't know why.
Correct.
We don't know, and we're sure it's probably not. I'm sure there's something has happened to you in your life where you're like, this
doesn't feel right.
Doesn't feel like this should be happening. So now we're going to give you some structure to that. So when you feel that, at least you now have the resources that either you can ask or you
get
just,
involved.
And you can get involved.
That's right.
Okay, so let's get into it. What do you think? First of all, so what are our human rights? What are human rights?
Tell me.
So let's go over a few things, okay? Again, this is a lot. Get your pencils and pens out, okay, everybody? So let's first talk about it. I'm going to actually define what a human rights violation is. Then we're going to go over human rights and take a look at some of the universal, not just ones that are in Canada, but the universal, you as a human universally, what your rights are. So a human rights violation, let's start with that. Human rights violations occur when actions by state or non-state actors abuse, ignore, or deny basic human rights. Now, our basic human rights include civil rights, political rights, cultural rights, social rights, and economic rights. Now, these organizations collect evidence and documentation of alleged human rights abuses and apply pressure to enforce human rights. Now, when I say these organizations, I'm talking about the ones that we will be bringing up a little bit later on,
Right.
that actually know what's going on, know exactly what our human rights are, because, again, sometimes we don't know everything, so we have support systems
Exactly.
to go to. So now you know anything that rights include civil, political, cultural, social, and economics. Those are the rights that we have as humans. Okay, so Amnesty International's 2009 World Report show that individuals are usually, okay, let's go over this, tortured or abused in at least 81 countries.
That's nuts.
Okay, face unfair trials in at least 54 countries.
Okay.
Restricted in their freedom of expression in at least 77 countries.
Okay.
Women and children in particular are marginalized in numerous ways. That I'm not too surprised by.
Right.
And the press is not free in many countries.
Yes.
So dissenters are either silenced,
Media.
yeah,
Right.
or sometimes they're silenced
It's just silence.
permanently.
Right. That's right.
Meaning killed. That's right. So let's look at the articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. But before I go there, did you want to say anything about some of the stuff that we just talked about?
I didn't know that the tortured and abused, the number of countries.
81 countries.
81 countries.
That's a lot of...
Yes.
There's a lot of torture happening, and I had no idea.
That's wow. I
Yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand. I can see the women and children because, of course, for years and millennia of years, right? Women and as well as children have been taken advantage of.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And now when it comes, of course, either the sex trade, when it comes, of course, to working conditions, child militias, which, of course, some examples which definitely take place around the world. Right. So, I mean, wow. As humans, we still have a lot to do.
Absolutely. We've been. And now that I think about it, though, this 81 countries, torture and abuse, how many, I know you may know this, how many countries are in Africa, just alone? Do you know?
That's more than... I'm sure we can look it up exactly.
Okay, I don't remember exactly how many countries.
Right, but
I'm sorry.
it may
Please
be
don't
more.
judge me.
It may be
But
more.
it makes sense now with the 81
course.
because we know what's happened in Africa. Let's be real, right? So if we were just taking in Africa alone,
Right.
there's a lot of human rights violation and torturing happening just
Correct.
there,
Right.
right? So let's get into the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So this is what us as humans around the world, again, regardless of race, color, creed, religion, this is what your rights are. Number one, it's Article 3, and this is the right to live free. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person.
That's huge. It's vague in some areas because,
Yeah.
of course, some governments, some state countries, of course, will definitely have their position regarding what is free,
and what's liberal.
and what is liberal.
Very
right?
true.
But when you're looking now, of course, on this side of the world, within the Western area, right, where this is emphasized on a daily basis, right? Especially now, of course, people of different sex,
Yes.
right? We have, of course, a lot of the women's movements which have been happening as well, right?
Yes.
Right. So, I mean, you can see where this is a lot more emphasized in this side of the world, as opposed,
Yeah.
of course, in some areas.
In some other parts of
Right.
the world, like third world, like the right to life, liberty, and security. Well, we're going to be talking about a few of these things. We're going to be giving some examples so you will see what we're talking about, okay? Article 4. So
Okay.
I know you have some stuff to say about this, and I think we have a time to start it, okay?
Go ahead.
No slavery. So, where do we go with this one?
Wow.
Okay, so go ahead, Dave. I'm gonna leave this one go because I'm polarized on this one. I'm gonna stop.
Well, of course, naturally. I mean,
So-
the both of us are.
Can
right?
I read
You
the
wanna
first part of
keep-
this and then
you
you can
want-
go into it? We'll read this first part and then let Dave go into it when we
Well,
come
when
back from our break.
That's
So,
right. Go ahead.
the U.S. State Department estimates 600,000 to 820,000 men, women, and children are trafficked across international borders each year, half of whom are minors, including record numbers of women and girls fleeing from Iraq. In nearly all countries, including Canada, the U.S., and the UK, deportation or harassment are the usual governmental responses with no assistance services for the victim.
Wow.
So
you can see how it just hasn't, the formula hasn't changed, right? I mean, you just read just from, of course, Iraq. But after the break, we'll get into a little bit more details, especially in regards to like modern day
slavery
in and across the continent.
North America. We'll be back.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Happy Hallows Eve.
Hallows Eve, All Saints Day, yes.
And there's another word. I saw it online today and I can't remember what it said. But it was like happy...
Samhain?
That's it.
Samhain.
That's it. Welcome everybody to Here to Help You. Thank you for coming back. So we have a new engineer. Which means I just have someone else to harass for an hour, which is awesome. We'd like to welcome Jordan.
Big up.
He's now our new engineer guy, which means he got to put up with me at least for an hour.
At least.
Every week. But we welcome him. Good luck to you, brother. Good luck. Welcome him to the team. And I will speak to him and probably clown him just like I did Chelsea.
Oh, boy. Shout out to Chelsea.
Shout out to Chelsea. Doing the same thing, though. I'm going to clown and harass and everything else. Maybe even ask him to speak sometimes. So we were on slavery. So a human right is no slavery.
Right.
So we stopped there and I didn't drop the mic, but I dropped the paper.
Yes, you did. And you banged the table for a little bit.
And I got heated and polarized, but I'm back now. I'm good.
All right.
So I kind of talked to you about what was happening. And the part that struck me in this last section, before you head into this,
go right ahead.
The fact that including Canada, I'm disappointed. The U.S. and the U.K., deportation or harassment are the usual government responses. What do you mean usual government responses? What is that supposed to mean?
Well, now you're getting into, of course, international things, right? And what I mean by that is this, right? It comes down to, of course, dollars and cents, right?
Yeah.
And what is deemed valuable.
Yeah.
Right? For countless of years, we've always been devalued as a people.
Humans seem to be, though, in general.
In general, yes, right? Now that devaluation has been spreading rapidly,
yeah.
Right? And of course, for as much as America has, of course, bases in almost every country around the world, right? You can see, of course, in regards to their international politics and how distraught it is. No different from Canada. Canada may be an actual peacekeeping country, but you can see now in regards to like types of incidences where a greater response is needed.
Oh, we're about to go into some of that. We about to hit that.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't shock me, especially that last part, right? What definitely shocks me is that it's still happening.
Yes.
Right? And not just Iraq, but of course, India has a problem. It's still happening on the continent of Africa.
Of course, that's never stopped. That was the original.
In fact, the continent of Africa, sub-Saharan, right? The countries beneath the Sahara, right? Account for 13.6% of the total enslaved population. 13.6, and this is according to globalslaveryindex.org. The countries: Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, Mauritania.
Wow.
13.6%, right? And we're not getting into, of course, what's happening in, of course, Nigeria, what's happening in Ghana, right? What has happened in Egypt, and maybe some parts of Ethiopia as well, right? Wow. So I mean, it is something that's still taking place to this day, right? There may not be, I'm not sure in regards to how much of global voice there is in regards to this, outside of course the Amnesty, right? Outside of course, the organization we're going to mention later on as well, right?
Yes.
But in regarding, of course, the usual government response, right? You can see this happening all over again, right? Especially in regards to the carving up, of course, of the continent at one point in time, right? And of course, that type of response, even when they went ahead and said, yes, and it's still abolished, right? And still continued to practice it, right? You can see now, of course, the cycle is still continuing.
It's very true, and it's why I dropped my paper.
Drop the paper.
I had to drop the paper earlier because I was like, really? No slavery? That's a universal human right?
I'm telling you, right?
All right, Article 6. Let's keep going with this.
5.
Sorry, Article 5.
5.
No torture. No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. So, a little bit on that.
Okay.
In 2008, U.S. authorities continued to hold 270 prisoners in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, without charge or trial, subjecting them to waterboarding torture, which I would like for you guys to go and check to see what that is. When you get a chance, go and look up waterboarding torture.
That's
okay?
serious. Very
that
serious.
Stimulates drowning, guys. Okay? Former President George W. Bush authorized the CIA to continue secret detention and interrogation despite its violation of international law. Again, just like when I stopped at the top with this governmental response. So, Foucault governmentality. I've mentioned this before. What Foucault believed was that it's very hard for humans to govern other humans when they are incapable of governing themselves. Right? How do we have people governing us who are about this type of treatment? Right? Because again, for us as the people who are not in power, it's hard for us to feel like we can do anything about it. And that's what most people's problem is. And it's just why we're talking about this today is what do we do? The bigger hands that be are in control of this. What do we do?
With Foucault, it definitely falls along the lines of Aristotle when he was stating as well, that some people just need to be dominated. And told what to do, right? And in that case, right? So, I mean, you could see the justification that they've had for over the years.
Okay.
Right? So now, of course, in this case now, especially, and of course, at some point in time, we'll get into, of course, the whole terror aspect, right? Where they can go ahead and do these things, right? And still get away with it.
Powers that be. Governors who need to be governed. Interesting. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, acts of torture, and you brought up Congo actually, acts of torture and ill treatment are routinely committed by government security services and armed groups, including sustained beatings, stabbings, and rapes of those actually in custody. I keep going back to the fact that for some reason, a lot of these human rights that are being violated are the ones, of course, who are not in power. And that's usually how it is, right?
Well, keep in mind this as well, right? A lot of the attitudes, especially on the continent now, right, have been derived from, of course, what we as a people have gone through, right? We've spoken about in regards to that post-traumatic syndrome, right? The slavery aspect, right? The actual effects of it, and how, of course, the generations and generations and generations of people that get affected, right? Once you have leaders who've been trained in the Western world, right, and they come back now, of course, to the continent and don't apply nothing traditionally, and still have the Western mentality, backed by Western dollars, right?
Money again.
Exactly, right? They can continue to go ahead and snowball and have the snowball effect, right? And of course, this iron fist, right? Because of course, once again, this is what we've been subjected to,
right?
As well, right?
It's terrible.
It is.
It really is. And again, I hate to be such a I'm usually it's really funny. I'm the idiot, and I'm saying something silly, but none of this is funny. This is like, these are human rights that many of us don't even know about, which is again why we have here to help you. We need to get this information out to you so that you know. And again, any comments that you may have, any questions, please comment underneath, either on the Facebook or the YouTube, whichever. Please talk to us. We have resources that we can help you guys out with if you feel like you need to ask someone about some of this stuff. Okay?
Absolutely.
Article 13, the freedom to move. Everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. Everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and to return to his country. Examples, of course, when this didn't happen. So in Kenya, again, we're back in Africa. Authorities violated international refugee law when they closed the border to thousands of people fleeing armed conflict in Somalia. Asylum seekers were illegally detained at the Kenyan border without charge or trial and forcibly returned to Somalia.
This is tough because on one side, how do you tell a country to go ahead and govern itself and freely open its borders? Right?
Yeah.
And then on the flip side is, of course, how do you not have some sort of compassionate standards?
There you go.
Right? So, I mean, it's tough from, of course, never been in the position, of course, to governing something of that magnitude, right? But, of course, being an outside in, we have people who are suffering.
Their rights are being, violated.
Right?
Like, you should have the right as a human being to move. If you feel like you're in danger in your home, why do you have to stay in your home? But in the same breath, you can't just go to your neighbors and be like, look, we're kicking down the front door. We need to be safe.
We need to be here.
So it is a tough one.
Right. You know, and there are countless of brothers and sisters, you know, who are in the States, right, and have left, came here, right? I remember this one time in the news where a brother came and said, listen, you know, I'm in fear for my life.
Yep.
And so he left America and came to Canada, right? I'm not sure if he's still here. I'm not sure regarding what the situation is, right? But you can still see modern day aspects of this.
Oh, of course. And I don't know if we'll go into freedom of thought because this one's interesting. We're not going to get into much detail. We'll probably come back and talk about it in the next segment. But Article 18 is the freedom of thought. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience. Am I right?
Yes, you are.
And religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others and in public or private to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. So in China, Falun Gong, I don't know if I said that correctly, but I think I did, practitioners were singled out for torture and other abuses while in detention. Christians were persecuted for practicing their religion outside state-sanctioned channels. So again, all over the world, human rights are being violated.
Yes.
When we come back, we'll talk about a few more of the articles that we need to know about, and we'll catch up on what's happening here in Canada.
bill that she was introducing, right? And the amount of protests in regards to, of course, you know, what the freedom of thought regarding, of course, that type of religion, that type of faith, right? So now, of course, when is your thought in violation, right? When are you not in agreement with certain lifestyles, right? Certain practice, right? And freely able to go ahead and say this, right? Without it not being a violation. You understand?
Yes.
Right? By means, I'm not condoning, of course, any actions that took place regarding, of course, those clashes which took place during, of course, the whole Islamophobia thing, right? Because, of course, anybody who does
Explain
practice
what that is, please.
Islamophobia, simply, of course, any type of speech, right? Any type of action towards anybody who practices the faith, right? And we're talking about, of course, violence. We're talking about, of course, slurs, right? Jargon, you know, right? Which is, of course, very hurtful. So anybody who practices the faith, right? So now, once again, how do you govern something such as that? Right?
That's a good question. Maybe someone else, someone out there. So how do you, let's ask them.
Right? Because, I mean,
You can tell us, how do you govern freedom of, like, how do you govern that?
picture
thought?
this, right? Of course, there are countless and countless of people who still call us niggers, right? Mind you, we still call ourselves niggers,
Yeah, I was going to say most of that is us.
right? So now,
Be real.
if somebody else calls us a nigger, right, are they in violation of freedom of thought? Right?
Question.
I mean, once again, we're not condoning, right? And neither am I condemning, because, of course, all right, we the people still need to go ahead and take hold of our own actions.
Absolutely.
As in regards to the same, of course, to those people who are inciting those type of slurs, right? Carving the swastika, right? Which a lot of people have no clue,
The meaning of it.
no clue in regards to its origins.
That's true.
Right? But still is used in regards to a racial.
It's hate. It's a
right.
hate symbol.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? I remember one point in time, you were not able to go ahead and call a Jewish person Yiddish or
Okay.
an Asian person Oriental. Right?
Yeah, because Oriental's a rug. Continue.
Oh, no, well, right?
Orient rugs, no?
However, though, right? I mean, once again, right? These are also, of course, freedom of thought patterns, speeches, actions, right? From a set of people hurled towards, of course, another set of people who simply
right.
just didn't like it, didn't want to be associated with ever again,
Okay.
right? So how do we now govern this, something like this?
Again, we'll put that out there to everybody. How do you govern? Like,
It's
when
true.
does it become a human rights
exactly.
violation? Like, can you say it and then someone else says it's a human? It's how does this work, right?
Right?
But it's in the
But
the
is it-
Universal Declaration of Rights and Freedom
There you
of
go.
Human Rights. So
Right.
like it's there. End of the day, we all have the freedom to think we want to think. If you want to call me a nigger, you have the freedom to do that.
Right.
I also have the freedom to whoop your ass if you do that. Okay? That's the difference, right? But there's a freedom. Everyone has a freedom to do that, right?
Now, your freedom to whip their ass, would that be, of course, in line with the next article? With the freedom of
Article
expression?
19. Freedom of expression. Great follow. Thank you, Dave.
No problem.
Everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of all frontiers. Okay? Some examples. So yes, I have all freedom to comp you in your face if you come and get bright. All freedom. Okay. You asked for it. So in Sudan, dozens of human rights defenders were arrested and tortured by national intelligence and security forces. Okay? Again, I noticed that a lot of this stuff is happening in Africa.
Well,
Majority of the research that I did,
What happened a
lot
lot-
of the human rights violations
Right.
were in Africa.
of course, I mean, once again, right? It's a behavior, right, that has been inherited, right? So, I mean, at one point in time, you wouldn't hear such violations happening or occurring on the continent, right? Of course, you're looking at a collective society. You're looking at, of course, a council of elders, right, who kept things in check. But once all these things were wiped away, especially with the coming of the Europeans, right, and as well as, of course, of the Asians, not the Asians of today, but, of course, the Asians of yesteryears, right?
I like that word, yesteryear.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Right. So, I mean, once again, I mean, it's not surprising that, of course, a lot of research, what isn't brought up today, especially with the research involved, because, of course, once again, we just haven't gotten over anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Papa Doc in Haiti, right? Idi Amin in Uganda, right? Countless of other leaders who have gone ahead and like violently silenced.
Violently silenced, completely going
Expression.
against humans' right. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right? So, I
Yeah.
mean,
To continue that, in Ethiopia, 2 prominent human rights defenders, who cannot be named, obviously, were convicted on false charges and sentenced to nearly 3 years in prison. So this is people who do what we are doing. They were just speaking.
Right.
And because they were speaking up, I guess, against the government about human rights issues, they were silenced and put in jail.
yeah, I've met it a few years back. I was working for, of course, a prominent company, right, which I can't name on air.
No, we keep
Right.
those things silent.
Right. So, and I met a gentleman at that point in time. One thing came from the continent. I forgot which specific country he came from. However, though, he was a big part of the media, right? And of course, through that outlet of expression, he had to leave his country, right? The national forces, of course, the threats upon his life. At some point, I was like, hey, listen, we need to go. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've met somebody who's gone through something like this.
So I realize now, just even dealing with the time since we have a lot to cover on this topic. So we're probably going to do a second one, right? We have to do a second show on this because
No
there's
stress.
a lot that needs to be covered. But again, it's important that it's talked on a lot of forums about human rights, but we need to continue to talk about it. The dialogue needs to happen so that we are aware of what's happening in the world, and that when we see people like refugees who do come to Canada, we have a better, understanding of why they're here and what they're dealing with.
Right.
No one wants to leave their country. Well, some people do if that's really bad, but everyone would rather stay home.
Everybody would rather stay home.
But if you're forced
That's the
to
truth.
leave,
Yes.
you have to leave, right? And you're going into a place where, of course, you get here and now your human rights are violated again, which we'll get into.
Right.
Maybe not today, but it does happen where even when they come to Canada, the rights are violated, right?
Of
So it's
course.
there's violations happening all over the place. It's pure red flag. So even in the sense in Somalia, again, with this freedom of expression, someone was expressing the Somalian human rights defender was expressing their thoughts and they were murdered. So this is again, you're silenced in some way,
Right.
sometimes permanently. Anything else on this article, Article 19?
Let's continue.
All right, Article 21, the right to democracy. So everyone has the right to take part in the government of his country directly or through freely chosen representatives, which means that you get to pick who represents you,
Yes.
okay? Like we have a mayor who represents us, or we have who's in our sectors that we have?
You
What's
mean
it
the
called?
MPs?
MPs.
Right.
That's right, okay? Everyone has the right to equal access to public services in his country. Now, this is where it gets a little bit fuzzy. Everyone has the right to equal access to public services in his country. So if you're in another person's country, do you have access to public services?
It's a very good question.
It is a good question. See, this is where things get a little bit, it gets gray,
Right.
right? Because then if you come here to Canada, are you saying that because I'm not from this country, I don't have the access to, human rights? I don't have the access to services? Jordan, why are you what are you smiling about? This is a serious conversation. What are you smiling about over there? This is serious human rights violation. You grinning?
Figuring things out right now.
Okay. He's still adjusting, everybody. It's okay. We appreciate you. Learning curve. So everyone has the right to, the will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government. This will shall be expressed in periodic and genuine elections. Sorry. Which shall be by universal and equal suffrage and shall be held by secret vote or by equivalent free voting procedures. So we have the right to pick who we want. Okay.
Yes.
Now, what about communism? How does that work?
That's a very good question.
I have questions all over the place.
It's a very
so
good
for
question.
communists, someone who agrees with communism, how does this ability, this freedom to democracy work? And this is the real question. I don't know. I just
Right.
want to know what you guys think about
I
it.
mean, I'm sure there would still be some sort of voting process,
Okay. There
Right.
is a voting process, I think.
right? But I mean, of course, it's just ran differently.
Okay.
That's my take on it. I don't know specifically, but yeah, I'm sure there's still a voting process there.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to quickly review the articles.
Okay.
And then when we come back in our last segment, we're going to squeeze in a little bit about what's happening here in Canada. I think we're going to have to skip some of it. I had some stuff to say about Jamaica, but we don't have time.
Next one.
We're
next
going to
time.
come back to Jamaica. So, your articles. These are from the Articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article 3, you have the right to live free. Article 4, no slavery. Governments all over the world, take in that one, please. Article 5, no torture. Article 13, the freedom to move. Article 18, freedom of thought. Article 19, my personal favorite, freedom of expression, or I can bust your ass. And Article 21, the right to democracy. So when we come back, we're going to talk about some stuff that's actually happening here in Canada. We'll see you guys soon.
Discover the incredible India.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to have to apologize for the last segment. You probably didn't hear a lot of what we were saying, but what I was doing was I was actually... Jordan. Jordan. Oh, my God. Are we okay, Jordan? Okay. So, like, this is the problem when you have someone new, right? He has to glow. Yeah. Subscribe here, okay? Eventually he'll get it. Jordan. You know what? I'm not going to cuss you out. We have a few more. We have about 20, 30 more shows to do together. So I'm going to allow you.
It's called our growing pains, my friend.
You have so much important content to cover.
I have so much content to cover. You are right. But if people could hear me.
For sure,
then,
for sure.
So. Welcome to Here to Help You. Our team's always, always on the move. So let's look at now what's happening. We've gone through all of our declarations. Do you think that human rights violations are happening here in Canada?
Yes,
wow,
I do.
I didn't even get to finish. Because you're right. Ding, 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 ding. Wonderful.
Yes. Thank you.
So we only have a few minutes, and we're going to go through these. So we are going to have a second part to this, guys. This is going to be this is part 1. So there's going to be a part 2 to this because we have a lot to cover, and there's no way we could cover it all today.
Very true.
But we're going to go over some stuff that's happening here because it's important.
Right.
Okay? So human rights violations right here in Canada. The biggest one, the one that is talked about the most, but yet still nothing has been done, is violence against Indigenous women and girls. Women are still disappearing, guys.
Yes.
Like, this has gone to every level, United Nations and everything. And women are still disappearing.
One thing I don't understand is this, right? If the women continue to disappear, the girls continue to disappear, right? And they hold, of course, the reproduction, right?
It's genocide.
Exactly.
It's cultural genocide.
Right.
That's what it is.
I mean, it's bad enough, of course, you know what? And once again, of course, you're looking at now, there was an integration of cultures. Let's just be real, right? And what I mean by that is this: the British and French, when they came over first, and who they seen here, right? They seen the natives,
indigenous people. That's right.
Okay, right. And then of course, during the whole fur trade, right? I love that part in school.
Then they teach the fur trade?
Yes.
It's so cute.
It is.
How you
with-
guys
with
like place the
Champlain
wordings.
yes,
Oh,
it's beautiful.
it's wrong.
But
And it's very inaccurate.
right.
But
You know, especially, of course, with the Hudson's Bay, right? And of course, what they were doing at that point in time, right? How they were, of course, they had X amount of tribes fighting against each other for beaver pelts, right? And then, of course, when these tribes now go ahead and present their beaver pelts, they were dripping them. Here, no more. We can't give you no more money, but you know what? We can go to sleep with some alcohol, right?
that's awesome. Sorry.
But you understand where
Of
we're coming
course I
from,
know what
right?
you're saying. Of
right?
course.
So of course now you have this integration of cultures now, and this is what they've witnessed.
Mm-hmm.
So now, of course, once again, now it becomes okay because this is what they've been exposed to.
They've been violated in so many different ways.
Of course.
The 60s scoop, where
Yes.
they were like going to people's homes and taking people's children out.
Mm-hmm.
Residential schooling,
Right.
when they were taking children directly from the homes.
Same thing, of course, with us here as Africans here.
Yeah.
This took place here, of course,
Absolutely.
with early African Canadians here as well, right? Taking the children out of the homes to bring them to so-called
Schools.
right? And parents wondering if their child's ever going to return back home.
And then when they did return back home, the children were never the same. I mean, they would see such a difference in the way their children acted.
Yes.
They lost their culture.
Mm-hmm.
They lost their speech,
Yes.
their language.
Mm-hmm.
Cultural genocide. Complete human rights violation.
Yes.
So this has been happening. This has been happening in Canada for years, and like they come up with all these laws that, which we don't have time today, but we're going to actually go into the Indigenous women's piece, because I think that's very, very important. It's something I've wanted to talk about because it's huge here in Canada, and it's talked about, but it's still not known.
Yes.
It's just talked about. Like people, you hear it on the news every now and then, but this is an issue.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know what? Like, remember, right? They're associated with like the lowest life forms, right? That's what they're considered to be.
Such a great people. Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, of course, nobody has any regard for their human existence.
Yeah.
Right? When them, just like us, all we want is just a human experience.
That's it. We want human rights. We want the right to. They wanted the right to practice their religion. They wanted the right to keep their children at home. They wanted the right to their land, and they got tobacco and alcohol,
Liquor.
and a little bit some reserves that don't even have clean water. That's right, people. Right here in Ontario. Just let's talk about human rights in that aspect.
Yes.
There are families here in Ontario that do not have clean drinking water
That's understandable.
on the reserves.
Yep, that's understandable.
Okay?
Definitely.
They get a certain amount of water each month, and that's all they have for cooking. They can't use the water. People there have had skin issues,
Right.
intestine issues,
Right.
stomach issues because they can't drink the water. And I mean, that's here, guys. It's water. That should just be a given.
And it's no different in regards to what happened in Africville during the 60s.
Yes.
Right? At least, and it's sad to say, you know what, of course, there's some amounts of water being brought into these reserves. They didn't have any water.
They didn't even have a fire station.
They didn't have, of course, public sewage.
Nope.
Nobody came and cleaned the garbage.
Nope.
Right? So, I mean, of course, the X amount of human rights violations which took place. And then, of course, the expropriation which took place afterwards, which to this date, still no repatriation.
The natives kind of got something back for the residential schooling. Kind of. Again, there's no way money will ever be able to take away the damage that was caused to the indigenous population.
But we're no longer accepting just an apology either.
Yeah.
Right? It's easy to say, I apologize, we're sorry.
Yeah, but we can't Justin Bieber this.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't dance this
And
away.
you know, and like, don't just give us a plaque either.
Yeah, and
you
some
know-
money.
you
Doesn't
know,
help
like,
anything.
no, it
Our
doesn't-
culture's already gone.
Exactly.
Done. Mash up.
Right? We need to do something else. There needs to be something else done.
Yes, absolutely. Counterterrorism, since we're limited on time, we have some other ones here, but again, we will be back with this. Let's talk about counterterrorism, Bill C-51. We also have Bill C-31, but I don't think we're going to have time to get there today. So let's deal with Bill C-51.
Yes, the great Stephen Harper and of course, you know, the Tories, they went ahead and brought this into play. I'm taking some information from CBC. This is an article written back in June 18th, right? So C-51, right? And the article reads as following. Controversial anti-terrorism bill is now law, so what changes? So here are some of the top 5 changes. Number 1, promoting terrorism is a jail offense. So either encouraging or promoting others to carry out a terrorist act, right, is now an offense. Generally speaking, right?
Makes sense.
Right.
Can't be telling people to go bomb up places. That ain't cool.
Right.
That should be an offense. I agree with that one.
Right. However, though, right, the definition in regards to this is a little bit obscure.
Okay. Let's
Right.
hear the obscurity.
Right. The bill is targeted at people who encourage or promote the commission of terrorism offenses in general. So there's no clear-cut definition of what general was, right? So this now, of course, this is now the argument of everybody else who simply does not have a clear-cut definition of what this
So I could be like, yo, that's the bomb, and end up in jail
5 years.
because I said bomb.
5 years. You know what I'm saying? Right? So, I mean, it's a lot of these things, of course, are not clear cut in regards to the definition wise, right? And then again, of course, who now has the power? Right? Number 2, crack down on terrorist propaganda, right? Something like this now, freedom of thought,
Freedom of expression.
right?
It's true.
Arrest without warrants. I mean, we've seen that already, right? The carding alone in this country is terrible.
Yeah.
Right, the carding alone, of course, in Toronto, let alone in the GTA, is terrible.
Human rights.
Right,
just
let alone,
dash
of
out the
course,
door.
this now, right, which it's supposed to be under, of course, the Anti-Terrorism Act, right? Once again, freedom of thought, freedom of expression, right? The information can now be shared through any major government office.
Any agency.
Any agency, from your taxes, right, to border security, right? I mean, just to name a few. So, I mean, now once again, right?
They be watching.
Exactly, exactly, right?
They see you.
So now, I'm in a conversation with my friend, yo, that's the bomb, right? And they flagged this, and now, of course, they run through everything.
Wow.
So if I didn't file for the last couple of years, okay, he's not filing. I wonder what he's shuffling his money.
Yeah.
Is he funding the terrorist propaganda?
He might be. He said bomb.
You know what I'm saying? Right?
He has a beard. Just saying.
You know what I'm saying? And he's got this nice, red,
That looks a little bit
like terrorist propaganda.
very
right?
aggressive.
You know what I'm saying? Right? And the 5th, CSIS, right? The Canadian Security Intelligence Service. So
That's where you used to work.
Stop it. Lies and propaganda, my people.
Go ahead, Cecil.
All right, so originally they were just created to go ahead and gather information and, of course, spread it out for those who were to go ahead and act upon the information gathered, right? Now they have the power to enact, right? So whether it's, of course, interfering now with specific travel plans, so having, of course, your passport revoked, right? That's something now they have the power to do, right? Your banking, they can go ahead and disrupt that as well, right? Not even just, of course, that, but social media. They can go ahead and gather the intelligence, of course, and make sure that's no longer, of course, something that's easily accessible for a person or said persons.
So, as we said, we don't have time to finish up all this. Please comment, like, share, ask questions. We will answer. We're going to do a part 2 on this. Again, if you haven't guessed my outfit, try to guess what it is.
Good luck.
Okay, try to guess. You guys have a wonderful evening. Have a safe Hallows Eve, everybody.
Yes, be safe. Peace and love, family.